I tell the guys, we're thin but mighty. Anybody that's ever asked about our program over the last few years, I've been saying the same thing. And
Princeton's always been a tough football team. One thing about us is we're going to play tough. We love to hit. Hitting is like preached, and it's like the gospel in Princeton.
I don't want to have all these rules and all these things that you got to try and memorize. Just the word all in. All in.
Football is one of the greatest sports in the world.
It was certainly emotional, no doubt about it. It always is between us and Ocean City.
I don't like losing. The kids don't like losing. And I don't want to lose to the same team over and over and over again. We want to win a state championship.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Cal One-on-One right here on Cape Atlantic Live, presented by Ulmer's Appliance Service. I'm your host, Nick Kosko, and with me today is Atlantic City head coach Keenan Wright as we kick off our 2025 football season previews. Coach, I feel like we just talked last year, getting ready for 2024. It's already June here in 2025. Football is about 2+ months away. What a whirlwind already as we go into the next season.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like yesterday we just spoke about the 2024 season. So, it might as well it's all one season to me anyway. So we might as well just keep it going.
How was the offseason for you guys? Coming off a pretty good season in 2024, 8-4 last year, made it to the sectional Group 5 finals. Tough loss to Washington Township, but overall, very successful campaign for your Vikings. What was this whole offseason like, trying to build off a run to the sectional finals and obviously, trying to do it again here in 2025?
Yeah, you want to try to repeat the success, if not do better. We're always trying to, our goal still remains the same and trying to win a state championship. Our off season's been great. Attendance in the weight room is up. We have some kids that were younger that have been around for our recent success, and they want to be the ones leading us in. So they've been leading the charge in off season workouts, which have been really good, really good.
When you look at those off-season workouts, so you mentioned the attendance was up this year, a lot of buy-in for the off-season. I feel like that's been a common theme for a lot of high school programs in this area over the last couple of years, where there's more buy-in now for that off-season, for those off-season weight programs. If they're not doing a winter or spring sport, what do you think changed right after the season ended last fall that went right into the winter, where these guys, really didn't want to miss a beat?
I think overall we're pretty consistent. I have a really good strength and conditioning coach. And from the time Thanksgiving is over, we're in the weight room the next day. And the times that it's open, we're pretty much open 6 days a week. So, not all of them are mandatory. Most of them are. But also, which was added to our program, we have a lot of guys that ran track this year. And that's something that we have a lot of skilled guys. Obviously, we got some speed and all that, but it's like, is it really speed, or, is it just I was fast when I was little, one of those things. So now we're getting acclimated and learning how to run, learning how to, compete and get those verified times, so guys can be realistic about how fast, they really are. So we really had a lot of guys, especially skilled guys, run track this year, which is going to help us out this year.
Did you have those guys run track in the winter and the spring, or was it kind of like, let's lift in the winter, then go to track in the spring, or a combination of both?
It's lift in the winter, but it's also a lot of our guys play basketball too. Peaky was obviously one of them. He was senior, but we have a lot of guys play basketball, in our bigs, some of them were wrestling who didn't wrestle before. And then in the spring, spring track was basically mandatory. And that should pay dividends for next year.
When you look at the cross sport type of athletes, where, a lot of coaches, they always say, and I'm sure you agree with this, football 365 at this point at the high school level, but it's good to see these guys, really stretch their athleticism in basketball, wrestling, and track. And I like how you said, track's basically mandatory because you want to keep working. You don't want these guys to get complacent over the course of, maybe even sprint, the light spring practice for football. What'd you really look for your guys in track? Was it mostly the skill guys, working on their speed and their strides, or did you have some of your big boys too saying, hey, you know what, throw a little shot put, get some more lifts in, with a combination of both of those two things as well?
Yeah. My big guys obviously throw, shot put, discus, but also too, like competing. Like track is you, you're self-motivated. I want you to compete. So obviously there are opportunities within the weight room to competing with yourself. You're failing every day. You don't get better, in my opinion. You don't get better unless you fail. Like
Right.
you have to. And in the weight room, you fail every day. On track, you're failing every day. But also, you have an opportunity to compete. So you carry that competitiveness in everything you do. With track, stance and starts. You think about a wide receiver at the line, like just explosiveness out of the blocks. Same thing off the line of scrimmage, and just being confident. Like I can turn the corner and I can get upfield, like that kind of thing. Like knowing you're fast is different from thinking you're fast. So.
Yeah, I like that. When you look at the competitiveness, and you alluded to the fact that a lot of the young guys in your football program have seen the rise of success over the last couple of years, including last year's run to the Central Jersey Group 5 sectional finals. You always want to compete for a state championship. You want to equate last year's success, if not exceed it. Was that competitiveness for those young guys who you knew were coming back for 2025? Was it pretty much evidence like, all right, Thanksgiving's over, we played our rivalry game against Holy Spirit, we got to the sectional final, and then all of a sudden after Thanksgiving, it's like, oh yeah, that competitive juice is still there, if not even, the fire is bigger, so to speak.
Yeah, for sure. It's rough. Like to go so far, we haven't gone that far in 25 years here in Atlantic City. So to get there, the further you get, and if you lose in the end, the letdown is that much bigger. So it multiplies. So you you have to get back on board and try to erase it, but you really don't want to erase it. You want to learn from it. We want to try to figure out how to play our best football late in the year. That's always something you want to be healthy. Obviously, everybody wants to be healthy, but how do we play our best football? In late October and November, like how do we do that? We went on a nice run last year. I think there were some things that kind of revealed themselves, some holes that we had. But I think across the board this year, especially with our young guys, we're a very solid team coming back.
And when you look at last year, I think the run was what was more impressive for you guys. Tough loss to Mainland and Millville to open up the season, but then you guys ripped off, eight wins in a row at that point to get all the way to the sectional finals. How do you sum up, and before we turn the page to 2025, how do you sum up 2024? Special group of seniors. You alluded to Peaky Roseboro already, who's off to college next year at Westchester. Of course, Sinai DeGraffenreich, who's up at Rutgers now, or as an early enrollee. When you look at last year's senior class and that run for you guys last year, where Atlantic City High School saw something where they haven't seen in 2 decades, how do you sum up 2024 as a special season?
Special group of guys. I tell them all the time, player-led teams win championships, not coaching-led teams for the most part. Ice Cup towards the end sort of became like a closer, and kind of moved him around a little bit. And he went in the backfield, and he was like the running back. Call him in. We're calling him in. He come in running back, and he get the first down, win the game. Peaky, he was such a dynamic athlete on both sides of the ball, a leader, led by example. We had Waleed Rhodes, Zephaniah. There were guys that really believed and bought into what we're selling in our program, and they're going to carry it off to college next year. That's what I'm most proud of. Like guys can continue to play football, from Montclair State to Rutgers. Like guys are playing football. Like I want you to continue that, and as long as you can, because before you know it, it's over. So that group was a very special group. Had them for a few years, and the good thing about that is they did it the right way. They worked hard. They trained. It's not just I'm just a good athlete, so I'm just going to show up. It doesn't work that way here. The young guys are seeing that, and they're already, making strides towards that. Even though they're young, they are together as a unit, because we say, win together. Like we're doing this as a family. So
I like how you pointed that out, because it sets a new bar. Yeah, you have all that success on the field, making it a deep run in the playoffs, but you see all these guys going to college and playing football the next level, ranging from D3 all the way up to, Division I in the Big Ten. When the young guys see that, do they come to you with additional questions, and it's like there's like an extra motivation, or is it just almost they do it amongst themselves, but they saw their peers do it? How do you see, I guess, the rise of the kids off the field as well? It's like, I want to pursue football in college. Maybe the academics come up, and then all of a sudden the skill in the football field comes up. How do you see it when you see your group of seniors from last year really set that example?
I mean, we want guys to play for the right reason.
Mhm.
I mean, but the world we live in, obviously, with Twitter and playing for the offer. Everybody wants to get the offer, right? My players or student athletes are learning what the offer actually really is and how difficult it is to even play at a Division I level. Size and speed, and academics above all else. The dynamic of making it all the way and playing in college is not guaranteed. One, you have to be motivated to do it, which is why we have things like 5 a.m. workouts and things like that. Our program is designed to mimic the collegiate level. We want to prepare them for what they're about to see. The same thing you would do in the classroom. So the young guys, seeing them go through the process, like signing, we all want to get to signing day and all that stuff, but it's what they did prior to that is what you really should pay attention to, right? That consistency and the routine, and eventually that time will come. And hopefully, you'll be playing in the playoffs and maybe giving yourself an opportunity to win a state championship.
Without a doubt. So we'll turn the page to 2025 in just a second. We'll take a quick break. Cal 101 right here on Cape Atlantic Live.
This broadcast is brought to you by Harbor Jiu-Jitsu. Located in Egg Harbor Township, Harbor Jiu-Jitsu is more than just training. Both adults and kids can gain practical skills that give you real confidence, build physical and mental resilience, and you can join a team that's here to help you grow. Featuring no-gi, gi, wrestling, and MMA classes. Harbor Jiu-Jitsu is the most dynamic gym in South Jersey. For more information, check out harborjiujitsu.com.
So, Coach, when we turn the page to 2025, it's interesting because, you have to replace, great players like Piggy Roseborough and Sinai DeGraff, right? Those are, once in a, every 4 to 5 year type player when you're putting them on an offense that can be that explosive. So imagine there's a quarterback battle this summer, but you bring back guys like, Kwamir Bailey, Tamir Rex, I know was a star in multiple sports for Atlantic City. How do you see this offense evolving now when you have to transition to, replacing star players like Peaky and Ice Cup?
Well, the good thing is that, they know what they're doing. It's not like, Sinai got all the reps. It's not like, Picky came and, we had Joe Lyons at quarterback. So he learned under Joe. So now he was ready his senior year. From the wide receiver position, we have 3 other guys who were, Cup saw a lot of cloud coverage and, over the top help and brackets and all that stuff. So other guys were getting open and, having some success too. So the good thing is that those guys know, what they're doing. So Tamir is extremely explosive. If you look at him, you say, oh, he's undersized, but he's just explosive. He gets open. He's extremely, extremely smart on the field. Like he knows what he's doing. Two-way player in that sense. Kwamir Bailey, we call him Measy. His dad was a star. I know he's heard that his entire life. Played on a championship team. But Measy, long arms, has measurables, really large catch radius. I'm very excited about him on the offensive side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, very excited about Jaden Hemphill and his senior campaign. A lot of people don't know about him. He is the captain of our defense. He was our defensive player of the year. He's a guy that, hey, man, you need to run track. We need to get better sideline to sideline. He does it gets faster. Like, hey, we need to, bulk up a little bit. Oh, okay. Does that in off season, gets better. Like, he's just one of those kids, so coachable. And Omar Kelly at safety, just the last 4 games, he was just he was unblockable. He was just coming in and he was just three interceptions, 8-9 tackles a game type of kid. So he's coming into his own. He'll be a junior. So he's got 2 more years to show everybody what he can do. There are pieces that are kind of just waiting in the wings.
Yeah.
From the Peaky and Sinai and the orbit and gravitational pull that they had.
Right.
And it's gone now. Now that attention is going to go on them. Plus, we have, teams that look at the schedule and says, okay, we owe Atlantic City something. Mm-hmm. So there's a difference between hunting and being a hunted.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that, and the kids know it too. First game, obviously, mainland. I don't want to cut you off, but I know that's one that that's all we're waiting for.
Yeah. That's always one of the games you circle for the beginning of the year, especially when you guys take on mainland. Short drive over to another team, right in the area. You mentioned Jaden Hemphill over at linebacker, his senior campaign. He's the captain of that defense. Now, is that something he earns over the course of the offseason, or did you kind of see that coming at the end of last year, or when do you actually assign? All right, you're the defensive captain, you're the offensive captain. Here's our other team captains. Where does that come from? Is it coach led, player voted on? How does that work for a kid?
That's voted on by the players, but that's just evident. That's one of those guys that if you have like a captain's pick or something like that.
Yeah.
He's a guy that doesn't miss in the weight room. He calls the defense. He's a signaler. He's the guy. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking forward to see what he does this senior year.
On offense, again, replacing those guys, but a lot of talent coming back. Does any of your offensive philosophy change in 2025? Do you have to adjust some things? Because again, a kid like Sinai Wright's going to command a lot of attention from a defense, thus opening stuff up for the rest of your offense. And now you don't have that quote unquote Division I presence, but you still have a bunch of other athletes and really talented wide receivers and running backs and skill players. Do you change anything, or is it kind of more the same and maybe just a few tweaks here and there?
I kind of think we'll be very similar to what we've been seeing. We'll push the ball vertically. We have guys, Jalen Day, his younger brother, Dante Thompson. We have guys that can, stretch the field out, that can get up and down the field. Now, you're going to see, one-handed catches in the back of the end zone and stuff like that. They're capable. But Tamir Rex, Vashad Turner, Vish is a name that, people need to look out for. He's also a very skilled slot player. And even on O-line, O-line was stronger.
Yeah.
And so I think across the board, there are a lot of kids that are going to be placed in positions that, they're ready for, that they got some time last year and that, they're ready. I don't want to come out and say, oh, we're young.
Yeah.
We lost a really good class, but there are guys that are ready to step up, and they were stepping up while they were there. So
when they step up, and I can only imagine this leads you to essentially raising the bar year to year, because you mentioned before, making a run like last year for the first time in over 20 years. And then now 2025, you mentioned, you guys were hunting last year. Now you're the hunted, of course, first game of the year. You still have mainland. They just went back to another state championship game. So it's a big clash of, I guess, South Jersey Titans at this point. When you say you are the hunted now, is that what changes in the kids' minds? Do they know it's like, all right, maybe this extra point of detail we have to focus on during the week that'll make all the difference that maybe we didn't do last year?
South Jersey Titans, I'm humbled and honored to be considered one of the Titans of South Jersey. I don't know if we're quite there yet, but appreciate that. Yeah, being the hunted, I think we have the same approach as far as being aggressive on offense, being aggressive on defense, but not. Not that we were taking teams for granted last year, but you come in with the idea of they remember last year and they're using that, and they probably use that in the offseason as motivation.
Right.
We're using Washington Township, Millville, mainland as motivation. So it's not like we can't find it. There's always hills and there's always barriers and things that we go through just on a daily basis. So we use that adversity to push us, day by day, but also, into the season. So mainland is going to be ready like they always are. They're well coached. The kids, they're working out too. I remind our players that, we're not the only ones training and lifting. They're also doing it, and they've been doing it for years. So just about, who wants it more.
without a doubt. Coach, appreciate your time today. I'll leave you here with this one. Over the course of the next 2+ months, of course, I believe you guys are opening up Battle of the Beach with Mainland. Or I'm sorry, this game's in Delaware this year, correct?
I'm getting some calls about that too.
Yeah, it gets some calls about that. Okay, so but either way, Mainland's up first. But over the course of the next 2+ months, what do you look for as maybe the biggest strides that your program wants to take with this group in particular in order to make sure you guys are ready for week 1, or I guess it's technically called week 0, but for the season opener here in 2025?
Every coach is going to say this, but I really, really mean this. We have to go in healthy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, obviously there are some positions where depth may be an issue, but we want to go in healthy. We want to go in, you know, fully ready.
Mm-hmm.
I think playing a team like Mainland, you play a team in week 0 that is, you know, that is of a high standard, high caliber opponent. And that makes the offseason that much easier from a coaching standpoint, because there isn't much that we have to do to motivate our kids to get up for Mainland.
Right.
You know, and I'm sure it's the same, you know, for them. But getting ready to go play a team that's around the corner in Delaware, which I've heard, got a few calls about.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's a great experience for the kids. If I can say something about that, I think creating an experience where it's almost, you know, again, like our goal in our program is try to create an authentic football experience.
Right.
Things that they're probably going to see, you know, at the next level if they so choose to play.
Right.
It's, you know, traveling and, you know, all that film and, you know, like I want them to have that feel. So I think that's pretty cool. But in the next 2 months, we need to lock in, you know, all the, you know, summer leagues, work, jobs. I have a lot of kids that work. Like I want that to be the focus. Like you can still do all those things, you know, summertime, there's a lot of things to do in AC.
Yeah.
But just, you know, just focus on what we have to do. If we do that collectively as a team, that will give ourselves a pretty good chance.
Well, we're certainly looking forward to a season opener against Mainland, as the August will, you know, be here before we know it. Coach, appreciate the time today. Good luck this season. Looking forward to talking to you once again in the fall, and we'll see about another great run here for Atlantic City in 2025.
That's right. Thanks, Nick.
Absolutely. Cape Atlantic Live presents Cal One-on-One right here, presented by Ulmer's Appliance Service. We'll see you next time.